Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and once again, and maybe for the next few videos, because I'm hanging with Nick Burafeta from Link2, he's here with me, and so I wanted to start this show by, since Nick's with Link2 and he knows about their offerings and what's coming and different things, what I wanted to do is have a little conversation about tokenization of assets, because we both kind of think this is going to be like the biggest thing, one of the biggest things there is coming. And so Securitize is one of the only companies that I know of who has been actively working on tokenizing real world assets. But the problem, because I've looked at their website, and the problem I've always had is that when I think of tokenization, I always think of it as if there were things that were tokenized that people could really identify with, where they could go to parties and tell their friends. And I pulled up as an example Gators Stadium. If you look at that, if you could ever tokenize the Florida Gators Stadium, what you're looking at is thousands of people that would buy those tokens, and they would probably buy it out within minutes when the sale started. So tell us what your thoughts are on that.
You know, everyone that I talk to, everyone I have high level conversations about the future of digital assets, everyone agrees that tokenization is going to be the biggest thing, because everything from stadiums to the Empire State Building to Mel Fisher's Gold in Key West to racehorses to NASCAR teams, anything could be tokenized. And the moment things are tokenized and all these opportunities are tokenized, investors and people are going to want to invest in all kinds of things, and it's going to provide liquidity to these investments at any moment, because there'll be some sort of an exchange where people can buy and sell these tokenized assets. And look, I mean, let's face it, people like to talk about the things they're invested in. I mean, any Gator fan is going to want to, on a Saturday night, have a glass of wine with their buddy and say, hey, I own a piece of Gator Stadium. I mean, it's just, it is, I think it's going to be the biggest thing. I just haven't seen any evidence of any real companies doing it yet.
So that brings me to the next point. If you are involved, especially if you're doing it on the XRP ledger, but anybody out there that's involved in tokenizing real world assets, I want to hear from you. So send me an email, digitalassetinvestor2018@gmail.com. And there's and I'm sure Link2 would be interesting in hearing about it too.
Yeah.
So
that would be cool. That would
be
really cool.
So moving along, I saw this. Check this out. I saw this is John Deaton. He's at the XDC conference. He's got up on the screen XRP, the only digital asset in the U.S. with legal clarity. I thought that was great. I don't know if the XDC guys appreciated it much, but I thought it's a true story. Now, so we know Christine Lagarde is out in Jackson Hole. So here's another clip.
I think that the general principles of those three shifts, the responses that we must provide, and the new key principles of clarity, humility, and transparency, clarity, flexibility, and humility will stand, and I think will be appreciated and respected by my colleagues on the Governing Council.
No, we look forward to September 14th, truly an historic day.
I can't guarantee the same beautiful landscape as we have
The
here.
hills are alive with the sound of music. Christine Lagarde, thank you.
The hills are alive with the sound of digital assets, actually. I mean, they're dancing all around this stuff, but now, XRP went back and found a lot of the key, because we've been covering Christine Lagarde for the last few years, and went back and found several of the clips that things she said over the last few years about all of this. Here's one.
It's a speculative asset by any account. I mean, when you look at the most recent developments upward and now the most recent downward trend, it's for those who had assumed that it might turn into a currency, terribly sorry, but this is an asset, and it's a highly speculative asset, which has conducted some funny business and some interesting and totally reprehensible money laundering activity. I think that there are criminal investigations that have taken place that I'm sure will continue to take place that demonstrate it.
Are there any Ethereum investigations? And then here she is again.
Certainly see potential for CBDC. Digital currency is what I'm referring to. I'll tell you what we are seeing, and it changes so fast in a matter of 1 year. You know, the crypto assets at large have lost about 85% of their value in a matter of 1 year. What we are seeing at the moment is what Carlos was referring to, which is, you know, development into new technologies that will actually change the way in which intermediation is conducted, eliminate some of the barriers, including the unconscious biases that exist out there. And, you know, I think in the banking system at large in many countries, the difference will not be between those who are disrupted and those who survive, but it will be between those who are cannibalized because they are not seeing it coming and they're not embracing it, and those who self-induce that cannibalization. And I'm using cannibalization on purpose because it's a bit of a striking, horrible word, but it's really what it means. It's you're going to disrupt your business model, you're going to change it, you're going to reduce your costs, you're going to expedite your transactions, and you're going to continue to inspire confidence because you will build that on the basis of an existing backbone, which is your bank and the confidence relationship that you've established with your customers. So that's where I see changes happening now. If you think of Circle and Ripples and all those, that's where they are active and helpful.
That's exactly right. And then here's another one. This is the one we were showing, 3 years ago.
Cryptocurrencies and all sorts of companies now getting into this effort, not least among them Facebook. What kind of threat does this pose to the traditional banking system?
Well, I think it's, you have incumbents, the banks, commercial banks, and you have the disruptors. And clearly the disruptors are having an impact on the incumbents. We just heard a very large systemic bank here saying that they're launching their digital coin, currently piloted in a way within the institutional clients, but to be scaled beyond that. We heard from the European Central Bank that they have launched in November something that is called TIPS, that enables all the banks in the Eurozone to actually transfer instantly at virtually no cost money between them. So I think that the role of the disruptors and anything that is using distributed ledger technology, whether you call it crypto assets, currencies, or whatever, and it's far from the bitcoins that we used to talk about a year ago, that is clearly shaking the system. The voice that we heard, which was, I thought, really interesting, were those of the regulators and central bank governors who said, well, yes, this is good and this is helpful and it is changing the business model of commercial banks. But we have to be mindful of two things: trust and stability of the system. And we are equally concerned, we at the IMF, about stability. We don't want innovation that would shake the system so much that we would lose the stability that is needed.
And I'll remind you, when she says we're talking about trust, what they're ultimately, to me, talking about is the transparency. And guess which digital asset is the only one, not just with legal clarity, but has 100% transparency. Ethereum, we don't get to know who the disguised whale purchasers in the ICO are, and we don't get to know who Satoshi is, even though the government has met with 4 of them. And so then here's Elon Musk telling you it's not Bitcoin. I
could really sort of wax on about the nature of money for hours, because I played a significant role in creating PayPal. Right. And so my understanding of the money system at a fundamental level of how it actually works, the detailed mechanics of it, is, I think, there are very few people that understand it better than me. Bitcoin is an interesting example, obviously the prime mover on this, but the transaction volume of Bitcoin is low. Yeah. And the cost per transaction is high. It is,
and then he goes into talking about Dogcoin, which I can't really listen to. I think that Dogcoin is a total ruse. And then we've got this guy, and he's doing this interview with the Black Swan guys.
The governments are anxious to try and keep control of their financial system, but they won't be able to stop these things existing. And it's I guess the the aim of the government is to stop any competitor to the central bank digital currency occurring, but it doesn't mean to say that these things won't exist and that they won't have value. They will have value and they will exist. They probably just won't be used or necessarily be used in the same way that the central bank digital currency is used on a day-to-day basis. But it's entirely possible that many of these new digital currencies around the world will run on the technologies produced by companies like Ripple and others.
Yes, they will. Okay, and then finally, now this guy, I don't remember his name. I don't see his name. But this guy was like ex-IMF director or something. And I remember studying this guy a few years back, and I swear when I left it thinking that he was probably with one of those three-letter agencies that we don't talk about on this channel. Listen to what he says.
Across space and across time. So once one thinks about how money accomplishes this, clearly the appearance of paper currency, which as it happened was in China in the 7th century, was a remarkable transformation. The appearance of unbacked fiat currency under the regime of Kublai Khan, again in China in the 13th century, was a remarkable advance. But now we're at the cusp of physical currency essentially disappearing. Space.
I don't think that would be good. I think they ought to keep physical currency. I think keeping physical currency is what would stop the bad guys from bringing about. What do you think about that?
I think it's gone. I think it's going, without a doubt.
I think you're probably right, unfortunately. But I think that the physical currency staying is what would prevent these guys from making the CBDCs, prevent them from letting them go the evil route to control us.
You're talking about the Richmond, north of Richmond?
Right. Yeah.
It's not going to happen. They want to digitally program. I mean, it's really, ultimately, at the end of the day, it's not going to be stopped.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Let's just hope that we can benefit on the front end from all of this stuff. And anyway, keep your eyes open. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family. We need to know from somebody out there who's tokenizing real world assets. Who can tokenize? Who can go to Auburn University and talk to them about tokenizing the stadium? Because I would love to be able to tell my audience about the stadium. Tomorrow at such and such time, they will announce the sale of the tokenization of Auburn's football stadium. That would change the whole game. Thanks for listening.